everyone, welcome to the channel for a new video. So this is a bit different video. I was contacted by Crazy Dwarf, who is Infernal Dwarves community support, and basically he asked me, I'm part of other player that he asked to, what was my perception of the current balance, internal balance of the Infernal Dwarves book. He told me that he was reaching out to multiple players around the community that he identified, and he wanted to have some feedback on the book. And I thought, rather than just writing him a big wall of text with my feedback on the book, because I played this book a good amount of game with this book since since a year, we would say, since the new balance patch, we would say. I think I'm able to give some insight on what I think, but this is purely my thought on the book, on the internal balance of the book. But I thought that might be also interesting for you as viewers. Maybe you want to share also some of your thoughts on the book. So basically the idea is I go through the book and I will try to point out what I think is too cheap, what I think is too expensive, what could be done, possible solution. And basically this is done also in case of, it's a bit of preparation for the balance patch, and obviously I will be very intrigued to see what's going to be done at the end of the year in comparison to the recommendation I formulate in this video. So that's about it. Maybe to start, I think when we speak about ID this year, you need to consider which type of list have been popular, have been performing on a competitive level. I think that should be the best way to look at it in terms of internal balance. And I think what other data you can get better than ETC to be the judge of that. And I think ETC here will be the starting point and should be the starting point also for the team, because the players playing ETC will try to find and took time to try to find any possibilities of those books to get the best possible list for ETC. So basically they come out at ETC, they bring to ETC what they think, based on trainings, on tests, what they think is the best list with the book. So I think that should be taken into account also by mixing that afterwards together with the performance of those books, those lists at ETC. And I think if you speak about Infernal Dwarfs, you can have a look on New Recruit ETC result. Top 3, 4, 5 Infernal Dwarfs list are infantry based, and that's definitely has been the dominance among Infernal Dwarfs list since the patch is basically very dominated by high 1. And I think that will be, if I want to sum up and make it very quick, I could say the size 1, the height 1 units are probably, some of them at least, too cheap. And the other type of size, other type of high, for example, the Karim family and so on, are at the moment too expensive in comparison to the high 1. So you can adjust that in multiple ways. I will try to show it which way, but that would be my major high level approach on the book. And if you know me since a long time, you know that what I like the most about Infernal Dwarfs is not pure infantry. So if I would have found a way to field another type of army list which is as good as the list that I played at ETC, which is pure infantry, I would have, because basically what I like the most about Infernal Dwarfs book are the bulls. Toruk Anointed, I also love the Kadim family, I love the Flying Bull, the Toruk, all that kind of stuff, high 3, high 4, high 5, it's everything I love in the book, and that's my favorite unit. So I would have liked to field more of them, at least to have a mixed army between dwarfs and other stuff. I think that is the coolest things about Infernal Dwarfs. But that year, what has been really performing were really dwarf-ish list. You can compare it to a Dwarven old list because it was purely dwarfs and shooting and sometimes a bit of vassal levies, and that's it. And I think what we like about this book is basically the variety of models that you can field. It's amazing on a hobby point of view, and it's also amazing on a playing point of view, because it's very enjoyable to have a mix of tools in the list. in comparison to the more gunline type of list that are dominating at the moment. That being said, I think it's quite hard to look at it and make the right choice to not balance it the other way around. Because what has been dominating in Infernal Dwarves in the past couple of years has been sometimes more dominated by combat unit and much less by shooting unit. We have been the blunderbuss and bastion and stuff has been dominating for some years, but the war machine were very hard to balance, and during a long time they weren't played at all. So I think there is some part of success, and now the hard task for the team is to keep those options attractive, but at the same time try to improve this internal balance. And I think it's a main challenge that they face for most of the army books, because like I said in my ETC conclusion, I think external balance is pretty good. That's being shown by ETC data, but what's more lacking or where there is room for improvements, definitely on internal balance. Anyway, that's for the introduction, so you know what to expect. Now we'll go more into details, but that was a general introduction I wanted to make. I won't go too much into rules and stuff like that, because I think that should stay pretty stable. I think here the main focus should definitely be on point adjustment more than design. So I won't talk too much about design other than where I feel it's very needed. But I think overall the design are rather fine. Let's start with magical item. I think I've tried to put in green what I think should be receiving a decreasing price, and in red what should be a slightly increase. Onyx Core is not played at all at the moment. I think that's also due to the fact that the Overlord is not fielded at the moment by any popular list, so I think that's also an issue. But I would say Onyx Core could receive a slight decrease, because don't forget it's a conditional weapon, and we have had some nerfs on the ability to make things weakness flaming thanks to the token that have been a bit reduced, which makes sense. But I think due to that, I would expect here a slight decrease on the Onyx Core. Flame of the East has been very popular that year, so I think the thing that have been very popular this year and in almost every list should receive a slight increase. Something I've been very vocal about, or very vocal, I've posted multiple times about it on the forum, and I still don't get why, is definitely the limitation of high one only for Flame of the East. Not only it reduced the options to use that weapon, but also it's not an incentive to field more other models, other heroes and characters that have a bigger height. So I think here I don't see the reason really for that. In version 2.0 this weapon was allowed on any height, so you could field it on a Great Bull, and I don't think it's as overpowered to be reduced that way. So I don't really get that restriction, and I really expect this restriction finally to be gone. I think it could help some models like Turret Commissioner or other mounted model to be more attractive again. So that would be an expectation. In exchange for that, I would expect a slight price increase, maybe 10 points. Seems about right. Eye of the Bull is not filled anymore. It's also due to the fact that we don't have Bastion anymore, so that was also linked to that. I don't think the weapon is bad. The design and the price seems about right for me. It's more about other options that have an influence of that weapon not being used as at all at the moment. Blaze of Protection, I think we saw that quite a lot on BSB this year. I use it myself. I think it's quite good. You have also the problem with if you increase the price here, I feel that people will play a Ghostly Guard, which is also a decent option. You have other options of armors that you could use. I think Blaze is quite good because it allows you also to get two-handed weapon, but it's very sensitive. I think it's very price sensitive. We find now a lot of builds, but it's also due to the fact that everybody needs to fill a BSB on foot, and that's a good way to have defensive stuff for a good price. So I think that has been the main reason. Maybe a slight increase, but I wouldn't hope for not more than 5 points, because I think then it would be a bit over the top and people would just go for the cheap Ghostly Guard. Candy Mining also due to the fact that it changed a bit design. I mean, the Aegis improve against flaming attack is not that impactful, and then hand and a half, so basically from 25 points you are able to keep the armor save of your shield, but due to the fact that the small bull change and are now they have a 3+ armor save that you cannot improve, so basically you have no use for that at all, except potentially on Kadim, on the commissioner. But do you want to pay that on the commissioner? Maybe. But the shield, the problem is the shield is very expensive. So yeah, it's the shield, and then you pay for that, and you don't improve more the armor save. So it basically allows you to go great weapon instead of infernal weapon. But if you see the price of the shield plus paying Caddy binding, I think it's a bit too much. Then yeah, it doesn't give parry anymore as well. I think that was also the main interest of that. So I'm not sure if the design is that attractive anymore. I would here consider maybe a change of design, or then another slight decrease, but I'm not sure the people will pick it. Banner of Shamut seems quite nice. I haven't paying for that, but I think if you go for bigger units, it starts to be interesting. Then the Thrice Branded, I think it would deserve a slight increase in price. I think it's either quite good or quite bad, but it's used in the case of Blunderbuss and potentially Flintlock, so I think those kind of banner are quite interesting. I would expect here a slight increase in price, because I think if you play Blunderbuss, you pay for that. It's also due to the fact that the Bastion is not playable at all, so it's hard to judge if this banner is too cheap or not, or it's just the Bastion sucks, and therefore all the people, basically if you play Blunderbuss, you need to pay for that. It's auto-include. So that's a bit sad, but it's needed to make them effective without the Bastion. So maybe something could be done on the Bastion. Their Master Banner, yeah, nothing to be said. I think I liked a lot the banner. I've been playing it. If you don't have any other banner on Vassal, it's quite interesting. Fury Roll the Charge, I found it quite nice. Press of the Brass Bull, I haven't seen it a lot. I think it's just too expensive for what it does at the moment. The ring is about fine. Tablet, yeah, you don't see it anymore, but seems about fine for me for the price. The same for the mask. Then you have the Golden Needle, is probably a bit too cheap, because Pyro on 3+ is very good. So Pyro Flaming Sword on 3+ is very good, and also it helps a bit the mobility. So I would expect slight increase. I think not too much, but slight increase could be right, because the item is quite good. And then you have Lugard Ice. It's more due to the fact that the models that we played before with Lugard Ice are not good anymore. Basically, like Overlord, we don't see it a lot on Small Bull. With Lugard Ice, that was a popular build, but due to the fact that it changed the armor save, it makes him more likely to die than before, despite the Lugard Ice, and therefore the people are not playing it anymore. Because before you had the 2-up, 5-up with Lugard Ice and Lucky Shield, so that was very resilient, and it has been a bit different. So I think that's the main reason why people don't play it, but it has more to do with the mount more than the Lugard Ice, which seems about fine. A shared item, I think what could be missing are more killy weapon for the Overlord. Remember, the Overlord has the keys to the Citadel rule, meaning you need to pay 2 weapons. So do you want to go Hero's Heart? It's not that fighty. Basically, you need, very often when you pick stuff for your Overlord, you make a mix between flaming, non-flaming, and the only option you have is like Shield Breaker or Hero's Heart. They are not that sexy. I would expect something more killy, Vorpal Binding, something Eldritch Inscription, something a bit more killy to go on the Great Weapon would be nice for the Overlord, to bring him, to make it a bit more attractive. I think the moment when we saw a bit more Overlord on foot, at least, he had other option or weapon. I don't like that much the option that we have. I don't think we struggle for AP, so Shield Breaker could be replaced. Hero's Art, why not? But we have access to Infernal Weapon, which is already +1 strength. So I don't think it's that useful. I would probably remove Hero's Art for something different. Ghostly Duskforge seems too expensive for what he does. Who is playing Duskforge in the army? Remember, you don't have really access to 1-up. You could basically mix between Ghostly Guard and Duskforge to make it a 1-up rollable against non-magic. Why not? But who is playing that? You don't have really the Sorrow character with enough damage output to really play on that combo to be a scotch for big units. So I don't think it's really a combo. I think Duskforge is just a bit overpriced. The Rending, yeah, again, I'm not sure the Rending, that's the one we we need the most, but 60 points seems very, very expensive for that because we don't have any AP problem in the army. So who is going to pay 60 for that? Maybe something different. Obsidian, Free Mind is fine, and the Wall of Leeds, yeah. I think you don't have... is it really that interesting spell that you want to play 25 points for one time, put a wall? It's so situational. I would have expected maybe another spell, more useful, something more impactful that you could use, why not? But I think nobody pays for that spell scroll. So I would expect here maybe a different spell would be nice, maybe. Okay, Hereditary, nothing to mention. Then we go into the book. We start with the Overlord. Yeah, I think we haven't seen the Overlord on foot for a while. If I recall correctly, beginning of the year, we had some build of on-foot Overlord in the on-foot army. So basically people were playing from time to time the fighty Overlord. Why not? Yeah, it was maybe already last year, but basically I think since he got not so interesting weapon anymore, it has been less attractive because it's less versatile to fight with other characters. So if you go for a fighty Lord on foot, you want it to be quite good and be able to beat other characters. And that guy, I think, is not able to do it. So I see no reason to pay for him on foot. And then the mounted version, yeah, Toric Ritual has been a problem since years. I'm still waiting for using my Toric Ritual model in the tournament. I mean, it has been years that this model is bad. And I think the design is just bad. It's maybe one of the only cavalry model or cavalry-like model where you don't get armor save bonus for being on top of it. It brings no additional attacks with just additional mobility, but you're very vulnerable to range attack and that stuff because you have only one unit within you can get without being targeted. So yeah, I think here we struggle a bit with the design. Bull of Shamut, Great Bull of Shamut. Just maybe at the moment that artillery is quite good. You have also magic that is a big threat for them. So I think it's more a meta question. Should we try to shaken a bit the meta by making the monsters and mount a bit cheaper? I think so. That could be a way, to be honest. I think the design of artillery being less extreme, having less extreme outcome, I think it's definitely better. But due to the rule that we have at the moment for artillery, which I'm fine with, I think those prices need to decrease, definitely. They are too expensive for what they bring. So here I would definitely bring down the prices and consider maybe a slight change of design for Toric Ritual. But I don't know exactly what's the good solution. But yeah, maybe I know they've been already decreasing from like 80 or 70 to 30 and nothing changed. I think for me, the Overlord, the main issue, other than the price for Bull of Shamut, Great Bull of Shamut, which is more like a meta thing, so I would decrease just the price. But I think the main issue for the Overlord are access to weapon. The type of weapon you have access to are not attractive enough that you want to field him. And if you consider the fact that if you put him on a mount, you cannot take probably the best choice, which is Flame of the East, then you're left with A of the Bull, Onyx Core, not so attractive like I said for the price. And then you have Eros Art Shieldbreaker, come on. Nobody's going to pay for that on foot. Nobody. So I think that's a main problem here. But that can be fixed. Prophet. So I think here, if you take the church, you don't see Shamut anymore. You don't see Ashurk anymore. You see Lugar mainly and a bit of Nezibkesh. And Nezibkesh is quite good because it gives the engineer rule feel about right for 30. I think Lugar giving a ward save and additional mobility is quite good. Should be slightly higher. I think Ashuruk could be cheaper, definitely. So basically, Ashuruk, what I don't like is the fact that you exchange for the apprentice, which is not that sexy. Why not get an additional spell? Why not? Even if it has to be a bit more expensive. I would like to just get one apprentice spell, Alchemy, Occultism, or Pyromancy that you can choose just in addition. I think that would be very cool to get an additional Fireball or to get the Blast from Occultism for just in addition for that. Why not? I think I would love that. So even if that means a bit more expensive, why not? An additional spell seems quite good even if it's 40 points. And Shamut, I think it has more to do with the mount options. If you take the path, I think we saw a lot of alchemy due to the meta mainly. Pyro has been quite good as well. I think occultism, no master occultism, I didn't see it at all. I think since we cannot really boost the range anymore, it's a bit harder to get some good blast, or needs a lot of sacrifice, which is not that easy to do in the army. So I think occultism is definitely less attractive. I've seen it a bit on Adept, why not? It has some interesting spell for Adept, so why not? Let's move on to the mount. Yeah, Kalim Chariot, something has been increasing, that has been increasing multiple times from price. I think it came up to a point that it's not attractive anymore. And again, it's a meta kind of thing. I think, generally speaking, I would expect price decrease on stuff like height 3, 4, 5. Should be decreasing a lot. Bastion is a huge topic. I will come to that later. I think it's very much, it has a lot to do with the design, so it's more a design question. It's not worth it to really talk about point, because if it stays the same design, then it needs to come down in points, definitely. And then, yeah, Bull of Shamut, Great Bull. My favorite model in the game is the Great Bull of Shamut with a wizard on top. That's my favorite model in the game. So I would love to play it again, but I think it has to do with the meta, so decreasing the price might be the way here. I will also talk about design later. And here the same, yeah, the mount, I think Seat of Authority is crazy expensive for the Vizier. It was really good back in the day where you could put the Vizier on the Seat of Authority behind the Bastion, which is not the thing anymore. So I think it has to come down again. That build is not viable anymore. I think it can change for cheaper price. It's very, very expensive. The Bastion as well. The Commissioner, love that model as well. I think it's just a bit too expensive. So is the shield. I mean, 25 points for shield. Who is paying that? I mean, in which other book you see that kind of price for shield? Yeah, it's completely crazy. Infernal weapon was 20 points. Why not? I mean, if that allows you to keep the shield, maybe, and be strike 6, it's maybe too good. But yeah, it's still those weapon options seems way too expensive for me. So maybe that could be a way to make the model again a bit more attractive, decrease a little bit both. 5 points less for the Infernal weapon, maybe 5 points also the Great weapon, and you also take down 5 or 10 points for the shield. And that could be a way to see a bit more Toy Commissioner. Conjurer, I don't like that we have made that guy a Wizard Adept. I think that should have been an option to get an apprentice in this army. And generally speaking, I don't like the idea of making so many wizard base adept. I don't see really the idea of that. I would have liked to keep him at potential apprentice. Obviously, you maybe don't want to make him a chaff, but yeah, let's be honest. You can make it like it was before, Vassal Steed only for adept, and then you can only move 8 if you want to jump out. I don't think that would be really a cheap chaff. Yeah. I haven't seen it being a thing before when it was an apprentice. So if it's just a reason about the chaff, you can also maybe make it attach or something like that. I don't really see the reason for him being an adept, and I think 250 for him when you can take a dwarf. Let's compare it with the dwarf, 250, 290. I mean 40 more points and you have a dwarf with another profile, access to more spell and so on, and you can take hereditary. I think this guy is just at the moment too expensive, but it has to do for me with the Wizard Adept option. I see nobody also playing it all year long on the Steed, so yeah, here something needs to be done. The Scholar seems about fine. Again, it's more meta thing. High 4, sensitive to War Machine. All the bigger size units are not popular at all, so you're not going to feel the Lamassu alone on the battlefield without any Anointed, without any Kalim Titan and stuff like that to hide him. So it has more to do with that. I don't think it needs that much of a change. I like a lot the model and the access to the spell, so I'm looking forward to play him again. But I think it has more to do to what you have at your disposal other than him, so that's why. But we will see. I think it could come back to the table as soon as we change the rest. Let's move to the mount. Yeah, Seat of Authority, too expensive definitely for the BSB, the Steed, the Chariot. Nothing to mention about the design. So with the Bull, I think I'm fine also as well. So one thing that I didn't understand is why has the Great Bull of Shamut didn't get the 6 attack like the Dragon have. I mean, that was an update that was made beginning of the year or end of last year. where all the dragons, so the big mount, receive a 6 attack. And for some reason, the Great Bull of Shamut stayed at 5. I don't know why. Was it so overpowered that we thought, okay, he cannot get the 6 attack? I would be happy to see him get the 6 attack. I think it would make a lot of sense if you compare if you compare to the book, basically. So I think that needs to be done, and would bring him a bit more on the table. And I love that model, so I would be really happy to bring him back to the table. We will see. Between the price and that, something I think has to be done for the Great Bull of Shamut to come back on the table. Bastion, I will talk about it later when we see it in the book. I think the Warrior and Citadel Guard, it's a bit hard to judge because both of them receive increase on the price of Blunderbuss, and here the Pistol and Spear, so the shooting weapon, receive high increase. And Blunderbuss, you need to keep in mind, they had always hitting on 5+, so they were much stronger than that for a cheaper price. And now the design has been nerfed, so has been the price, but we see them slowly back to the table. We have some lists that have played at ETC, so I would say, generally speaking, the core seems about right. I would make some small adjustment, but I mean, generally speaking, we saw a bit of everything. For example, I had success with Vassal Levies. The guy making best core for with Infernal Dwarves at ETC had double Citadel Guard. I also saw some lists with double Blunderbuss. So I think we have a bit of variety. I think the core section might be quite okay-ish. I would make some small adjustment. For example, Citadel Guard, I think Pistol Spear, maybe you make 1 point more, and maybe you decrease something in exchange, but yeah, some small change, but I think it's still the best option. It has due to the fact that Spear are the best option of weapon, definitely for them, so maybe you can increase 1 point and decrease something. You can play a bit with the internal balance of the unit. Levies, yeah, I think maybe if you compare Spear and Shield, I mean, nobody's going to pay big unit with paired weapon or shield. Spear and Shield has been auto-include on them, even of unit of 20, you would take that for free. So I think here I would change a bit the Spear and Shield to make it a bit more expensive, maybe on big unit. It's always very sensitive, because the levies, I mean, as soon as you touch too much, then it's getting too expensive, and then the people won't play it anymore. So it has to be with, you have to make it very sensitive to make it work. The bow, 3 point per model. On unit of 20, it's okay. As soon as you play a big unit of 40, you're not going to pay that much for the both. So I get that. It's hard to price. But here I think between the weapon, again, like Citadel Guard, I think something can be done. And the Slave, yeah, they don't see the table at all. I think for the sake of facilitating and speeding up the game, I think that has to go. I was surprised that in version 3.0 we didn't get rid of that thing. I mean, the model may never voluntarily change the number of files. That's not the thing anymore. In version 3.0, you cannot make conga line, which was the issue before. You cannot make conga line, so let's take that away. They are not going to conga line chaff stuff. So yeah, that definitely has to go away. And I think the loses HP when making a march move, yeah, I don't like it. It serves no purpose. It's just a bit of a bad feeling. You might forget it. I don't get it. And also the price is at the moment too much for that. If you compare it, 10 points less than Vassal Levies, that can be scoring, that can be oil flask and stuff. So yeah, I think the Shackled Slave are a bit of a wreck. They were multiple time nerfed because they were cheap chaff, very expendable. They had they could conga chaff, mobility 12 and that stuff. But I think, yeah, I would change some stuff. I would get rid of those 2 rules today, and maybe the price can stay about that, maybe 10 points less, and then that's fine. But I think that has to go. Those 2 rules, they bring nothing more than making it more complex, and yeah, I think it serves no purpose. When we want to speed up the game in version 2.0, I think that has to go. Let's move to the special category, more exciting. I think, yeah, Academy Incarnate here would decrease a bit the price. Again, keep in mind, Hate 1, they are very strong at the moment. They have the +1 to wound. They have also more static and stuff. So I think here I would change the competitiveness of the Kadim by making them cheaper and making some elite at I think more the main focus will be elite Hate 1 units more expensive, basically, to try to shaken thing around. And I think in an ideal world you would like to still keep some dwarf from core, get a good mix. I think the core section is about right, and then get some of those monstrous infantry or monstrous cavalry or stuff like that from special. The chariots, yeah, I think it's about right, to be honest. Yeah, we don't see a lot of them, but I think they are not that bad. Maybe you made a very slight decrease, but they seem about okay. We saw so from time to time you see one of them. So why not? I think that, yeah, it's mainly a meta thing also, that they are not fielded at the moment. Maybe a slight decrease would be welcome. Immortal, yeah, that need to be nerfed. Obviously, they are the main issue of the book. You see most lists that were successful this year have at least 3 units of Immortal, sometimes even 4. First of all, rarity common is a big issue. I think those type of unit, and it's the same for the Deep Watch, all these type of unit, I mean, no. Rarity common, that cannot be the case. So I think that has to be nerfed, definitely. They cannot be common. I mean, max 2 unit. Immortals, they are very special on the battlefield. They are not common, not at all. So I think fluff-wise, that's not okay. And they should be elite. Elite infantry should be rare. You could fill them max twice. I think rare is the correct, like Lugar, I think rare is max 2 times, if I'm not mistaken. That would be fine. That should be the case for Immortal, max 2 times. Then the base price, I think that has been the main issue. I think the additional model price is okay, but the base price is too cheap, and that's why people field so many 15 strong units for 300. They are quite cheap. The spear are definitely better than the other options, so I think it should be 2 points per model. Great weapon should be 0, and maybe infernal weapon 1 point, something like that. Because the great weapon, you don't have anymore the 3-up armor save in combat, which is, I think, very strong. So I would here shaken up a bit the thing, but Immortal should be the main unit that could be nerfed. Obviously, with the risk that you don't see them anymore, so it's a bit, it's hard to balance, because you can easily make them, if you drop point on other stuff, increase them a bit too much, then maybe you don't see them anymore. I think the bodyguard is really good on them and will always be interesting, but yeah, you cannot field them 4 times. I think that should be one of the main nerf for some army like Deep Watch and Immortal. It's max 2. End of the question. Max 2. You cannot field so many Deep Watch and so many Immortals. I think that's one of the main issue, basically, and also base price. You can play a bit with base price, maybe reducing extra model. That could be a way to solve the issue. Disciples, yeah, also base price probably a bit too cheap. You can slightly increase it, not too much. Maybe in exchange, again, if you want to decrease a bit to make the MSU style, which has been very popular, a bit less popular, and the bigger unit a bit more popular, that could be a good way to keep about the same price, but make bigger unit more interesting. And forces, I still think they are quite okay with the price. I'm not a big fan of the design. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the unit, but they are still quite okay for the price you paid. The main issue for them is obviously agility. They get very often beaten by better unit than them, but they are still okay. I mean, from time to time I've played them, and I think the 5 model unit is quite okay, has a lot of damage, resilience 5, so I feel they're okay. It's more a meta thing, that height 1 is better, but if you, depending what happened on other units, they might be attractive again. Anointed, I think, are too expensive. I love the Anointed Star. That has been one of my favorite units of the book, and it's way too expensive. I don't have any too much complaint, at least on the option. I think they're about right. I would just change here the price of base model, extra model a bit down, and we might see them a bit more on battlefield. Then we have Vassal Cavalry. Yeah, nothing to say about them. Also, the slingshot is quite cheap. Cavalry is still a chaff, can still put token. They are about right for me. I don't have much complaint on that. Gunnery team, we see them a lot, so I think here the price have to come up. I think out of the 3, maybe the Titan Mortar is the less interesting, especially with the loss of quick to fire. So I would here make Rocket Battery the most expensive. It has to go up a bit. The Naphtha Thrower for 170 has to be a bit more expensive. So does the Infernal Artillery. I think Naphtha Rocket again needs to go a bit up. I don't feel that the Titan Mortar is that much used. in comparison to the other two options. So I think here we can slightly increase again. It will be a sensitive type of things to adjust, because if you do too much, then people won't play it at all. So you need to find the right balance about that. The Bastion, yeah, the Bastion is a big issue. Basically, the main issue is that rule. Every shooting attack here are resolved onto the Infernal Bastion. And I see the fluff idea. I see the idea of the big Bastion taking all the damage. But it's a huge problem, because you get easily killed by War Machine and you cost that much. That's a huge problem. So I think here, yeah, it needs something to be done on this rule of firing platform. Can we just remove it, and then basically it's a normal war platform and you need to attack at the rest of the unit? Would it be too strong if we remove that? That's the question I'm asking myself. Other than thinking about the price, would it be too strong if you remove everything goes on the Bastion, then everything goes on the unit, and you have again a deep unit, quite solid? I think that would be enough to see it again on the table. Would it be too strong design-wise? That's the main question mark here. But I think as long as it stays all shooting resolve onto the Bastion, and also what's a bit odd, it's all shooting attack, meaning if you do magic, it goes on the unit, and you do shooting, it goes on the Bastion. I mean, that makes not much sense. So I think, to be honest, I would try to make it a normal war platform, taking away that rule, and basically play with the price. If it's too strong, then you increase the price up to a point where it feels about right. I think I would be interested to play the Bastion again if that rule, that shooting attack towards the model unit are allocated on the Bastion, was removed. I think then it would be enough for me to try it again. It's still an extra price of 380 that you play out of core for a core unit to shoot. The core unit, in exchange for that, obviously receives some attacks and some ranks, so which is nice. It allows you to push up the battlefield, but still you can play with the unit without Bastion and getting just the point of core. So it's still a tax out of core, which is quite expensive. So I think there is a way to balance it and taking out that first sentence from the rule. I think that would be the solution. Okay, we move to the next category, to the last category. Instrument of Destruction, which is my favorite one. Obviously, is the iconic unit are there. You have first the tank, Infernal Engine. Yeah, again, I think it's a meta problem here. You have a lot of alchemy at the moment. You have the War Machine artillery being quite good and quite cheap, which make the Infernal Engine quite easy to kill. I think as soon as you face alchemy, due to metal armor, you're going to die quite quickly. So I don't know if you should change the design. I mean, it's a bit the same than the steam tank. So I don't really know how to balance it. It doesn't see much the table, and I don't see it facing more the table because you have some hard counters, cannon and alchemy, and also evocation. And those two lore have been very dominant at the moment, which is basically a no-go at all for the engine. So is the solution changing the design of the engine? I don't think so. The price, maybe, not sure. Probably having an effect on maybe changing a bit the lore, the magic, something there could be done to balance better the lore, and then maybe you have less dominant lore, which allows a bit more those pieces to be filled on the table. Because I think overall the design is cool. I kind of like it. It's more an issue that you have some hard counters that are a lot in the meta at the moment, and basically doesn't give you any incentive to play it. Kadim Titan, love the model, absolutely love it. Yeah, I'm a bit sad. I'm a bit sad. I think it's just too expensive. If you consider the new design, the new design of 8.1 and all the stuff, the meta, you just have to take down the price. I think that would be the main solution here. I don't think the design of the Titan is bad. Both versions seems quite good, quite okay. I have always liked to use both versions in my games, so I think they're quite nice design-wise. I think here's just a basic question of getting the right price considering the meta, so I would just drop good chunk of point, to be honest. I would try something a bit aggressive to see how that goes, how the people react to that. But maybe I don't know how much I would decrease. but something quite aggressive, like a 30-40, would be something to start with, and maybe we see more Kadim Titan on the battlefield. Okay, and we finish with the giant. Yeah, again, it's a bit a meta thing. I would just make a slight decrease. I think the design of the model is okay. Nothing to say about it. And that's about it, guys. Yeah, I've made it through the entire book. So, yeah, I think I remain with what I said at the beginning. I think here the main offenders are, like in most books, Hate 1 is better than the rest. Definitely something that you notice in Infernal Dwarves. And I think the other type of units needs basically a decrease to try to encourage to take them a bit more. MSU has been very popular, so you can play here with increasing the base price and decreasing a bit additional model to encourage a bit more the people for a bigger unit. I think especially at elite infantry, and I think generally speaking elite infantry needs to stay elite and not dominant on battlefield in terms of numbers. I think that should be also keys. Guys, thanks a lot for listening, watching my video. I hope this has been interesting for you and also useful for the 9th Age project. I would be happy to answer any type of question, or if they want to consult me before releasing something to get another opinion once they do the change, I would be happy to give my advice or my opinion on that. But I'm really intrigued to see what they will do. I've pointed out some direction which I think are right, but again, it's only my opinion. I think they are going to make a mix of everything they receive and compare it with the data and then come up with the right solution, and I trust them to do a good work. Guys, thanks a lot for watching this video. Talk to you soon for battle reports. Goodbye.